أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين. We were discussing Ayatul Kursi, وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما. His kursi is encompassing the whole heavens and the earth, and he is not wearied by their preservation, or it is not wearied by their preservation. Now, samawat wal ard, just to mention this before going to this, وَلَا يَؤُدُهُ حِفْظُهُمَا. Samawat wal ard, of course, earth is mentioned here as our earth. What samawat includes the heavens, which of course is the place of angels, and the heavens which are physical heavens. Apparently the first heaven, or Sama'ud Dunya, the closer heaven, is what we know as the universe. So the whole universe is Sama'ud Dunya. Then there are other dimensions of Samawat in which the angels of different ranks. So there are certain angels who live in the first heaven. After Sama'ud Dunya, there are angels who live in the second. So if we want to know, when Allah says here, لَا يَؤُدُهُ حِفْظُهُمَا, He is not tired by preserving them, the vastness of this creation, we just can look at the creation of the universe, how vast it is and how powerful the matter which is inside, which is the building block of universe is. We know that in every atom the great energy is preserved, and that energy can be found everywhere in the universe. Of course, our knowledge of universe is quite little and restricted. At the moment, we don't know what are the building blocks of the universe. They talk about the dark matter and dark energy. They say that what we know of the universe, what we see of the universe, is just 5% of the material which is the building block of the universe. The others are not known to us. They call it dark matter and dark energy. And it's true that dark matter and dark energy, which they call it dark because we don't know anything about it. We don't have any equipment to actually know about them, which could detect them or sense them. That's why they call it dark. And it is that dark matter and dark energy which is holding the universe together, the stars, the galaxies, and things like that. And that may be the meaning of خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ بِغَيْرِ عَمَدٍ تَرَوْنَهَا. He has created heavens and the earth without a pillar that you can see. There are pillars, of course. There are things which are holding everything together, but we cannot see it. We cannot even detect it with our mathematical formula. And that's really amazing. If you want to know the vastness of the universe, that's the first heaven. They say that our galaxy is a small galaxy in the universe, which comprises of several 100 billion stars. And then there are 2 trillion galaxies out there. And if we want to, up till now, the equipments that we have, the telescopes, the machine that we have created, we can say that the diameter of the galaxy is 130 billion light years. So when we talk about this, لا يؤوده حفظهما, preserving them is not tiring it, because some say لا يؤوده, this pronoun goes back to Allah, like Sheikh Tusi says it goes back to Allah. Allama Tabatabai in Al-Mizan says no, it goes back to the Kursi. The Kursi is not in a sense wearied by preserving all these things. And in this way we understand the meaning of وَهُوَ الْعَلِيُّ الْعَظِيمُ, because Azim is an attribute which signifies physical greatness. And because Allah doesn't have any physical entity, there is a hadith from Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam, which says you can only find the azama of Allah in the azama of His creation, in the greatness of His creation. That's the greatness of the creation that we can see. So if we say the pronoun goes back to the Kursi, this Kursi, which is just a splash of the knowledge of Allah, a splash of the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is holding all these things and is not tired. And also, there's another thing here about tiredness. In the Bible, we have that Allah created heavens and the earth in the 6th day, and then in the 7th day He rested because He has become tired. He had become tired. And I think there's a verse in the Quran in Surah Qaf which responds to this, that Allah never feels tiredness. وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا فِي سِتَّةِ أَيَّامٍ وَمَا مَسَّنَا مِنْ لُغُوبٍ. No tiredness, no weariness touched us by creating this. In a sense, this is an answer to the statement in the Bible that Allah had to rest for one day after creating heavens and earth in 6 days. And of course, there in the Bible, it says He started on Sunday and finished on Friday, which has unfortunately entered into lots of narrations and commentaries, which one may ask, because weeks of the day and night are actually produced by rotation of the earth before creation of the earth, how we can say that we had Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which somehow feels so humanistic, so anthropomorphistic, this sense of interpretation. Anyhow, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا فِي سِتَّةِ أَيَّامٍ وَمَا مَسَّنَا مِنْ لُغُوبٍ. There was no tiredness for doing this, because Allah is beyond this idea of feeling tired and weariness and anything which is physical, actually. وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم. And He is all exalted. Ali here means that, of course, we talk about His kursi, but He is much beyond it, much above that. Or Ali may mean quite compelling and powerful. And Azim, as I mentioned, here is actually directing us to the azama of His creation, greatness of His creation. Then, after mentioning this, which is somehow known intuitively, that all this creation, the design is there by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's one more thing that I had to mention, and that is why the earth, which is a tiny, tiny, tiny planet in the whole universe, is mentioned along with samawat. I mean, if you want to, just in our own galaxy, if you want to somehow put the earth on the map, it's impossible. I mean, it's impossible even to place the solar system, unless if you somehow magnify the map of the galaxy 1,000,000 times, so that you can just see the smallest spots of solar system there. So why Earth is mentioned along with the samawat? The reason probably is that, of course, we live on the earth, and the Quran is addressed to us. And secondly, what we see on the earth, the system of life, we haven't seen it up till now in any other planet as far as our knowledge can reach. Maybe in faraway galaxies there may be lives, and the distances are so huge that it is impossible for us to know about each other. And therefore, the earth is always mentioned because of the life system, because of the amazing design which is in the creation of life on earth. And therefore, Allah always mentions earth along with samawat. After this is clear, and this is intuitively known, verse 256, لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي. There is no compulsion in religion. Rectitude has become distinct from error. فمن يكفر بالطاغوت ويؤمن بالله فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى. So whoever disavows the rebels and has faith in Allah has held fast to the firmest handle for which there is no breaking. والله سميع عليم. لا انفصام لها والله سميع عليم. About La Ikraha fi Din, the early commentators had difficulty to explain this. And the reason was the verses about jihad. The verses about jihad say, of course, you have to go and compel other people of other nations to become Muslims. And here it says, La ikraha fi din. And therefore, many early commentators have said that this ayah is mansukh, is abrogated by Ayatul Jihad. Allama Tabatabai rahmatullah alayh brings a very detailed argument that how is it possible? This is talking about the reality. Deen is aqidah. Deen is something which comes from the heart. You cannot bring it by sword. And this verse cannot be, because this is talking about an existential reality, cannot be abrogated. Abrogation is only about rulings of Sharia. Unless if we say that this is a ruling of Sharia. Now, because there are detailed discussions about this La ikraha fi din, first I mention some of the Sha'nun Nuzul, causes of revelations, which have been somehow related to this, which all of them are probably different separate incidents, and they have all connected it to this verse or to this sentence. And then we talk about different meanings that the exegetes have given to La ikraha fi din, and then what is understood, especially by Allama Tabatabai, about this verse. Now, about the Sha'nun Nuzul, in Tafsir al-Jalalain, Jalaluddin Suyuti says that نزلت في من كان له من الأنصار أولاد أراد أن يكرههم على الإسلام. Ansar had some children who did not want to become Muslim. I mean, the parents had become Muslim, the children didn't want to become Muslim. They wanted to force them, and the verse was revealed that La ikraha fi din. So it's nothing to do with other nations and things like that. However, he is actually combining between several narrations here, saying it in a sort of abridged way. There are details about this Ansar who wanted to make other people or their children to become Muslim. One instance is that one of the Ansar had a slave called called Sabih, and he didn't want to become Muslim. The master had become Muslim, the slave didn't want to become Muslim, and he was forcing him to become Muslim, but he didn't, and this verse was revealed that you have no right to force a slave to become Muslim. La ikraha fi din. Or it has been mentioned that in another instance there was a man of Ansar by the name Abul Hussein, Hussein with Sad. And usually there were businessmen coming from Syria who were Christians to sell things, and they established some sort of good relation with his sons, with his two sons. And these two sons gradually were inclined towards Christianity, and they became Christians, and traveled with these businessmen to Syria. This Abul Hussein came to the Prophet, peace be on him, and said that you have to do something about it. You have to go send some people to return my two sons. And then Prophet said, La ikraha fi din, or this verse was revealed, there is no compulsion in religion. And this man became very angry. Very angry that why Rasulullah is not doing something about it. These are my children, I'm worried about them. And then another verse was revealed about him, which is not our concern. The other story, which is also supported by some other narrations, is reported from Abdullah ibn Abbas, sorry. And that is, he says that when there were some women who couldn't give birth to children, or their children died. As soon as they gave birth, they died. Now, because they looked up to Jews in Medina, the Mushrikun, they looked up to Jews. These are people of knowledge and learning. They have scripture. They worship God day and night, but we only offer sacrifices to other idols. Some of them made vows and nadhr that if, for example, my child remains alive after birth, I will give it to the Jews to somehow for upbringing and education and everything, to serve them. And in this way, there were many children of Ansar with the Jews when the Prophet arrived in Medina. Now, whether this is right or not, we don't know, but we know that the Ansar, many of the Ansar, sent their children to Jewish schools in Medina because they had the schools, they were people of knowledge and learning, and the Mushrikun didn't have much schooling and things like that. So there were many children of Ansar in the castles of the Jews in Medina. Whether because of this story, or that they made a vow to give their children to them, or because they sent their children to be educated there. And then when Banu Nadir were ordered to, or deported, the Ghazwat Bani Nazir, when it took place, after the siege and all those negotiations, the Prophet agreed that they should leave Medina. And they left Medina, they went to Khaybar and other places. And these children who were with them, and apparently they were not a small number of probably sons and daughters, many of them, they decided to go with them. Although their parents were Muslims, these children, of course, we don't know whether they had converted to Judaism, they were still mushrik, they converted to Islam. They wanted to go with them, and then they came to the Prophet and said, please do not allow our children to go with Banu Nadir to Khaybar or to be deported. And Prophet said, peace be on him, that they said, قالوا هم أبناؤنا وإخواننا, they are our children, they are our brethren. فنزلت الآية لا إكراه في الدين. Then this verse لا إكراه في الدين was revealed. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قد خير أصحابكم. These people whom you call your sons and brothers, they have been given choice. فإن اختاروكم فهم منكم. If they want to stay with you, they are with you. And وإن اختاروهم فأجلوهم معهم. If they want to be with them, just let them go and be deported with them. So these are the stories connected to the verse لا إكراه في الدين. And so you see that in most cases, it is about certain people in Medina who did not want to stay Muslim, who did not want to convert to Islam, or wanted to go away with Jews, or became Christians and wanted to leave Medina. And the Prophet says that they are free to do so. Now, having these in mind, these different stories about the cause of revelation, different meanings are given to La Ikraha fi Din in here. First is what Hassan al-Basri and some of the students of Abdullah ibn Abbas have said, that it is about Ahlul Kitab. So for Mushrikun, there is Ikrah fi Din. They have to become Muslims, or otherwise they'll be killed by jihad. But Ahlul Kitab are actually given the choice of converting to Islam or giving jizya. So they actually are completely twisting the meaning of the verse to fit the sort of ayat of jihad and the pattern of the practice which were going in the early Islamic days. So it is fi Ahlul Kitab khasatan, and they are given the choice. Suddi, another student of Abdullah ibn Abbas, says that no, it's about everyone, but it has been abrogated by Ayatul Jihad. That now it's compulsory for them to become Muslims. There are other meanings mentioned as well, which are somehow similar. Abdullah ibn Abbas, again, it's reported from him that it has been revealed about a specific group of Ansar. The stories of whom were mentioned, but it cannot be generalized to everyone else. Now, these are all mentioned in Majma' al-Bayan. The fifth meaning which Majma' al-Bayan gives, which is a right meaning, and this is something which we understand actually from the verse, is that you never can force someone to believe. You may force them to comply. I mean, by force, you may force them to comply to whatever you want. But you cannot force faith in the heart of the people. It's impossible. Especially because it says that قَدْ تَبَيَّنَ الرُّشْدُ مِنَ الْغَيِّ. The guidance is now clarified and distinguished from misguidance, from dhalala. These are distinguished from each other. So anyone who likes to believe would believe. Anyone who doesn't like to believe, you cannot force faith into their heart. And that's why it says that faith is min af'al al-qulub. It is something which is the act of heart. You can ما يكره عليه من إظهار الشهادتين فليس بدين حقيقة. When you force someone to say أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله, they may say it, I mean they may comply, but they do not believe in their heart. Heart is something which you have no force and power over it, and therefore Allama Tabatabai rahmatullah alayhi says that first of all, this is a declarative sentence, not an imperative sentence. Many of the exegetes have taken as an imperative that you should not force people to believe, and then they say, well, it's about a certain type of people. He says that it is a declarative, it is actually informing us that it is impossible to force someone to believe, and then the imperative sense follows that, so do not try to force faith into the heart of anyone. It's impossible. لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي. So haq and batil are distinguished from each other, and anyone who wants to follow haq would follow, anyone who wants to follow batil would follow. And this is mentioned in many other verses of the Quran actually as well. It's not only this one. وَقُلِ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّكَ فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. Haq has been clarified by your Lord, so whoever wishes would believe, whoever wishes would reject. It is not in your hand. If it was something that could be forced, then the whole philosophy behind this life, which is ibtila, which is to somehow see how people behave, in what people choose, would have been nullified. It would have been impossible. Or, for example, in Surah Yunus, وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ لَآمَنَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ كُلُّهُمْ جَمِيعًا أَفَأَنْتَ تُكْرِهُ النَّاسَ حَتَّى يَكُونُوا مُؤْمِنِينَ. If your Lord wished, He would force everyone, He would have forced everyone to believe. And now that He has not done it, He has left it to people's choice. Can you do it? أَفَأَنْتَ تُكْرِهُ النَّاسَ. Can you actually make people to believe so that everyone is a believer on the earth? And this, of course, this somehow confrontation between Iman and Kufr will go until the end of life, the end of human life on the earth. Even after Imam al-Asr, we will have this. Although the power and the authority will be in hand of believers, but it doesn't mean that everyone will become believer. It goes until the end of human life on the earth. So, أَفَأَنْتَ تُكْرِهُ النَّاسَ. Can you now force people? Why Allah has left it like that? You cannot force. Or لَعَلَّكَ بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ أَلَّا يَكُونُوا مُؤْمِنِينَ. Do you want to kill yourself because these people do not believe? إن نشأ ننزل عليهم من السماء آية فظلت أعناقهم لها خاضعين. If we wanted to force them, we would have sent a sign that everyone would have believed. Say yes, yes, we would have submitted. But this is not the way I want this life go. So, if that is the case, how would early exegetes would explain the jihad? That means going to other nations, fighting, and asking them to become Muslims. Now, some exegetes, they say that the ayat of Sayf, the verse which talks about sword and go and fight, is to remove the obstacles for da'wah. You cannot make some people to believe by force. As I said, you can force them to comply, but you cannot force them to believe. Once we are talking about Sharia laws, yes, you can force everyone to abide themselves by Sharia law. There's no problem with that. I mean, Sharia law in a country, in a Muslim country, they say this is the law, you have to comply. But that doesn't mean that people believe in faith. That doesn't mean that everyone who's complying with Sharia law is believing in it. You cannot make people believe by force. So they say that jihad, which is mashru', a legitimate jihad in Islam, is only to remove obstacles for da'wah. So imagine that there is another country, for example, in early days of Islam, there was another country, they would have told you, okay, come and call people to Islam if they want to believe, if they do not believe, and they would have opened the way. There was no point for fighting then. The fighting was to remove all those obstacles. So this is about لا أكره في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي. فمن now, I give you this distinction between kufr and iman now. It's up to you whether you want to be kafir or you want to be mu'min. هو الذي خلقكم فمنكم كافر ومنكم مؤمن. He has created you. It is in your nature that you can choose. And when he creates you, some of you choose to become mu'min, some of you choose to become kafir. It is something which comes from inside people, not something which is forced to people from outside. We can see, for example, children who are brought up and educated in very committed Muslim families, they go out of faith. On the contrary, children who are brought up and educated in non-Muslim families, they become committed Muslims or committed religious people. So this is how things, with regards to hard work. Now that it has become clear that kufr and iman are matters of choice and not matter of force, I tell you the distinction. فَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنْ بِاللَّهِ فَقَدْ اسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْأُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى. Whoever rejects taghut and believes in Allah, then they have held strong to the a rope, the firmest handle, for which there is no breaking. لَا انْفِصَامَ لَهَا. Now here, again, we have to notice that it says initially it's not belief in Allah which is mentioned. Initially, kufr bit-taghut is mentioned. So only believing in God is not enough for holding to that urwatul wuthqa. Believing in God, many people may believe in God, but they follow whatever they like. They say, we believe in God. Yes, there is someone there. Well, we believe in him. We know that the design of this world would require that someone has designed it, and we believe in him, and we respect him. However, they do not reject taghut. What is taghut? Taghut is mentioned in the Quran as anyone who rebels against the authority of God. This is taghut. From tughyan, from jabarut, malakut, taghut, or from fa'alut. Now, taghut is any rebel who not slightly rebels against God, not, for example, commits certain sins. No, completely rebels against God, does not accept anything which comes from God. Now, if someone wants to become, to follow faith, the first thing is rejection of Taghut. Now, if we go to the early Islam, we say that anyone wanted to convert to Islam, first they had to reject the idols. The idols were Taghut. And that's one meaning they have given for Taghut. They had to reject the Taghut. Or if, for example, some people were following these things that the magicians were doing, going to sorcerers and kahana, these are other meanings given for Taghut. They had to reject them. And then come to Islam, believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the first thing is that Taghut, whoever rebels against God, whether it's against his law, it's against his existence, or whatever, is somehow intruding into his authority, whether it's an idol, a human, a jinn, or whatever. First, you have to reject these and then believe in Allah. Just believing in Allah is not enough. And then whoever does that, فَقَدْ اسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى, a very firm handle, which never breaks. It means that it will take you up to the very end to your destination. If someone does that, it never breaks. Yes, it may break in the middle if we go under the authority of Taghut. But if we do not go under the authority of Taghut, it never breaks. لَنْ فِسَامَ لَهَا. So here there are certain comments by some of the commentators. For example, Al-Baghdadi in Lubab al-Ta'wil says that it shows that if a kafir wants to convert to Islam, first they have to repent from kufr. It means that first they have to reject whatever they believed already, and then convert to Islam. And this lan fisama laha, and it will certainly lead them up to the very door of Jannah, to the very door of paradise. When someone does lan fisama laha, wallahu sami'un alim. And of course, Allah has done this with His knowledge, and Allah can hear whatever people say and do. And then there is another verse which explains this, which we'll leave it for next week, inshallah. And Allahu waliyul ladhina amanu yukhrijuhum min adh-dhulumati ila an-nur. Inshallah, we'll discuss this next week. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi at-tahirin.
Sorry, I didn't know Ammar was here, so I tried to switch on the switchboard. Anyway, thank you, Sheikh. Any brothers, sisters want to start with the debate? Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. This is very, very interesting, and probably this is the most difficult or more complicated to learn. I mean, there are a lot of la ikraha fi ad-din is a huge thing. But what is really istamsaka bil urwat al-wathqa? This is what is urwat al-wathqa? And also istamsak is not only believing in God. I mean, this is seems like is a path or believe. Is what is the urwat al-wathqa?
Yeah,
Why
actually,
didn't say believe in God or believe in Islam? What is urwat al-wathqa?
The following verse explains it, that this urwat al-wathqa is like, for example, you hold to a rope and Allah pulls that rope towards paradise. You never fall, it never breaks, and that's the type of guidance. So if you have these two things together, it's very important, two things together. One, believing in Allah. Second, rejecting anything which comes against the authority of Allah, whether it's law, whether it's belief or whatever. Then this gives you that strong connection with Allah. This connection is called urwa, isn't it? You are holding to something very important. And then by that, Allah would take you towards light out of darkness. He can take you because you are holding to it, He will take you. So it's not, certainly it's not a physical thing, it's something in the heart. So if that comes to the heart and to the practice, then it is like an urwatul wuthqa which takes you to paradise.
Thank you. Any sisters? Any brother? Yeah, Arias.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Sheikh, so how does this rope manifest itself to us?
In some narrations, we have that, for example, Urwat al-Wuthqa is Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam. It is manifested in certain type of guidance given by some people, certainly. And if we follow them, because we don't need only ideas, we need examples as well. We need palpable and tangible things. If we follow them closely, then of course we have held to this Urwat al-Wuthqa. As I said, submission to God, فَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنْ, Iman is submission, isn't it? You submit to God no matter what happens, what He brings your way or whatever. You submit to Him and you reject any call which comes outside His authority, then that is the Urwat al-Wuthqa. And no matter what happens, for example, sometimes we are in hardship, sometimes you are in ease. In all these cases, if someone holds to this, because sometimes when we are in hardship, we leave it. We just release it because we panic and things like that. So if someone is firm in that, it will take you to paradise.
So everything we know about the Prophet, peace be upon him, and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, points us that this is the rope. This is the clear example for what to do. Every single Imam, life that whatever we know of it, will point us towards how faith should be. So
absolutely, provided we are able to practice it, isn't it?
That's
and
all
this
right.
is the meaning of Hablullah, wa'tasimu bihablillah. It's another sort of expression of it, that hold fast to the rope of Allah which He has sent down to you, and one side is in His hand and the other side in your hand, you hold that and come. Yeah.
Thank you. Any sisters? No, Sarfraz? Any pass?
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Sheikh, I know you say that people choose, but initially all the souls are created in the same way, Habil and Qabil. Why is one soul weaker than another one no soul chooses arrogance. There's a weakness somewhere. Why is one soul weaker than another? How does that work?
We don't know. That's what in Surah Taghabun at the beginning it says, هو الذي خلقكم فمنكم كافر ومنكم مؤمن. Now, we don't know how it works. We know that people are responsible for it, but we don't know where it comes from. Which layer of soul or heart is choosing this, which is unknown to us. And after we choose it, then we try to justify it, isn't it? I mean, if we choose kufr, we try to justify kufr. If we choose iman, we try to justify iman without knowing why we are doing it. I mean, people bring proofs against God to me, for example. I may not have an answer for it, but I reject it. And vice versa. So it comes from somewhere that we really don't know. This kufr and iman are from those very complicated things in human soul and heart.
Thank you. Can you take the mic, please?
People from Medina, I thought it's deported. They force people out of Medina. I mean, this is
Yes, there are many other things which are true. Well, Prophet made a peace treaty with Jews, the three tribes, Banu Qaynuqa, Banu Nadir, and Banu Qurayza. Now, these people, one after another, first of all, they started to publicize wrong things about the Prophet. They tried to dishearten Muslims. They made jokes about Muslims. They ridiculed the Prophet, peace be on him. They derided whatever Muslims did. But Prophet did not, of course, do anything because they were in treaty. Until Banu Qaynuqa, first they violated their treaty. So the Prophet asked them to leave Medina. This was the least thing he could do. I mean, he could fight them. He didn't. Then Banu Nadir, who were actually allies with the Prophet, and Prophet was protecting them all the way. Once he went to borrow some money from them, and he sent his companions inside. He sat outside the castle himself, saying some zikr. They tried to throw a stone on his head and a boulder on his head and kill him. Jibreel informed him, and he said, "You broke your treaty." And breaking a treaty meant war, but Prophet didn't, of course, fight them. He said that you can just leave Medina. And it's mentioned in the Quran, isn't it? That's وَلَوْلَا أَنْ كَتَبَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْجَلَاءَ لَعَذَّبَهُم فِي الدُّنْيَا. Allah told you to deport them. Otherwise, the ruling was harsher. The ruling was that you had to fight them and kill them. But Allah said that you deport them. And they were deported. Then about Banu Qurayza, of course, what they did was much more horrendous. And the Prophet fought them and killed them. This is what happened. Yeah.
Thank you. Any sisters? Any other brother? Yes. Can you pass the mic at the back? Yeah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Shaykhna, the ayah is very, very clear. La ikraha fi din. I always understood Islam, faith. It's up to you how you want to take it, how you understand it. My question is, how and why is other factions of Islam are able to interpret this ayah differently and try to enforce, if you like, their thoughts, their beliefs in what they do?
We have to distinguish between two things. La ikraha fi din doesn't mean you cannot ask people to comply with certain things. Okay, you can force people to certain laws, and they have to comply. But la ikraha fi din means that you cannot bring faith into hearts by force. Now, theologically, certain people have certain theological views. They want to somehow force it upon other Muslim groups. This is wrong. This never has been something that's, it has been there, but it shouldn't have been there. I mean, we know that the Hanbalites at the beginning, they were trying to force their views on all other Muslims. They called other Muslims to be kafir. And this is why, at the time of Ma'mun al-Rashid, the Abbasid Caliph, this persecution of Hanbalites came forth because they were calling the Wazir of Ma'mun a kafir and everyone a kafir. So they said, now you have to follow our belief rather than doing takfir on us. It's not a good thing. I mean, especially nowadays between Shia and Sunni, this should be absolutely clear that we cannot force each other to follow each other's faith. And the only thing we have to do is that we somehow live as brothers and conduct a brotherly life. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ. We know that when it says La ikraha fi din, you cannot by force make people to accept your version of Islam. It's impossible. And it just leads to bloodshed, to fitna, and that's the only thing which we get out of that.
Thank you. Any sisters? Before we go to brother, please, there's Zuhair before you, brother Zuhair here.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
You mentioned about Azim here referring to the kursi rather than Allah.
No.
Sorry.
La ya'uduhu.
Sorry.
Referring to
Yeah.
kursi.
But then also you talked about Azim,
I said Azim, we know Azama of Allah by Azama of His creation.
His creation. And I looked through all the sort of verses that we have in like Mu'jam here. And it does sort of show, so for example, Adabun Alim and so on and so on. Even when it's referring to Allah, it's Zul Fadl al-Azim or Ismik al-Azim, which is referring to the foes or the ism. But yet we name, for example, children Abdul Azim. So would then it be sort of Abdul Fadl al-Azim or Bism al-Azim?
You know, Azim is sifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What Imam Sadiq says is that because Azim refers to sort of size, and Allah cannot be judged by size, we understand the azama of Allah by the azama of His creation. But when we say kabir, they said the difference between kabir and azim. Kabir is someone who's great in himself, not physically, okay? But azim, because it refers to physical greatness, is usually known, Allah has azama, but His azama only is known by the azama of His creation, the vastness of His creation. But yes, of course, He is azim, وَهُوَ الْعَلِيُّ الْعَظِيمُ, and Abdul Azim is quite...
But the thing is, the Wahuwa al-Aliyul Azim is used this here, still refers to Allah, but not in terms of His essence, in terms of His creation. Is that what you are saying?
Yes, Azim is not sifa of essence, not sifatul zat, is sifatul fi'l. Azim is sifatul fi'l, yes.
Thank you. Any sisters? No, Brother Karim? Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Salam.
I just would like to, I want you to clarify for me. Are we born kafir or mu'min? Or sometime we remain indefinite kafir or mu'min?
Yeah, it's a very good point, because this has been a point of controversy among Muslims since the early days. Ash'aris and Mu'tazilis and Shias, they have all had controversy over this. For certain groups like Hanbalites and Ash'arites, in different versions, they believe that yes, people are born kafir or mu'min. People are destined to be kafir and mu'min. And Allah has decided who should be kafir, who should be mu'min, and who should be rewarded, who should be punished. But certainly this is not a Shia or Mu'tazili view. It is, we are given a fitrah that by which we can distinguish between right and wrong, between kufr and iman. And then we decide which one we want. It's our decision. So it's not Allah who makes us kafir or makes us mu'min. It's us. But after we become mu'min, after we convert to iman, then Allah becomes our wali, our helper, our guardian, would guide us. If we choose to become kafir, then Allah leaves us, and the taghut will become our awliya. وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَوْلِيَاؤُهُمُ الطَّاغُوتُ. They become their awliya. They drive them, they take them. So then they go from darkness to light or from light to darkness. So it's all our own choice. But how we make that choice is very difficult to understand. It's not known to us.
Thank you. Any other sisters? Yes, Nizar.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Sometimes I wonder if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided to send the message today, 2019, would He necessarily use a messenger? Or would He use some other tool to communicate with people? But in His own wisdom, He decided that Prophet Muhammad was going to be the last prophet, and He stopped it at that time. And then I also sometimes wonder that again Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His own wisdom made sure, and we've been told quite clearly that there's a Quran and Ahlul Bayt that you'll follow. Quran as the original message, and Ahlul Bayt to help you interpret that. And then I sometimes wonder if all our A'immah had not actually suffered, but had a normal life, for example, and died naturally, all of them. How would we be practicing today? What I'm really trying to get to is that have we Shias actually almost made, please, nobody should misinterpret me, I am a Shia, I am a follower of Ali, and my Imam
Say
12, yeah. But I'm just wondering whether we have actually, this Ayatul Kursi is just the crux of the matter, isn't it? It is absolute crux of the matter. And have we actually really moved away from Islam original to almost creating madhab amongst the Ahlul Bayt, to the extent that we really are forgetting the original madhab, the original indoctrination of the unity of Allah, the God consciousness. In our practice, in our practice, almost following too far towards Ahlul Bayt. I'm just asking these questions in my own mind.
You know, in Islam, of course, after the Prophet, different trends of thought developed. And these trends of thought moved from one extreme, like, for example, we are absolutely free, God has created and has nothing to do with this world anymore, to another extreme saying that even if you believe it's God who has decided you should believe if you become kafir. So there was a spectrum of different views. Then in Shiism, we had the same thing, a spectrum of different views about A'imma, about how to follow them, about the Quran, about the nature of Imam, and all these things. What we are following actually, in essence, of course, I know different cultures follow differently. They have their own culture for following Tashayyu. But what we are following, in essence, is what was chosen by great scholars like Sheikh Tusi and Sheikh Mufid and others. They could actually win over other trends of Shiism, who they regarded to be extreme. And they fortified this belief by good arguments, good evidence from Quran, from Hadith, rational arguments. Now, if we think this is incorrect, then we have to be brave enough to come and say, okay, based on these evidence, these practices are not correct, and we have to rectify that. I mean, they didn't have easy time, like people like Sheikh Tusi, Sheikh Mufid. They were fighting for their version of Tashayyu. And they did a great job. I think we cannot generally say whether we are following or not following. No one knows what is the true version, whether of Islam or of Tashayyu or Ahlul Sunnah or whatever. It's all a struggle that we are making. So the best thing is to somehow, if we think that something is wrong in our practice or in our aqidah, we seek good evidence, good arguments. Of course, not just populistic arguments, because populistic arguments are always there. Is this, for example, what God wants, that people suffer like this? These are things that would not make aqidah. With good evidence from the Quran, good evidence from hadith of A'immah alayhimus salam, hadith of the Prophet, peace be on him, rational arguments, we can rectify. If there is something wrong in our aqidah, we can rectify. But we cannot just vaguely say whether what we are following is correct or incorrect. It doesn't actually help. I mean, if we vaguely say what we are following is not correct or is correct, we have to be specific. For example, this practice is wrong because of these reasons, or this aqidah is wrong because of these reasons. Then gradually, and it's a scholarly work. It's yes, of course, it may come from grassroots. Grassroots, their conscience and their intuition may reject some idea and say this is counterintuitive, actually. Then, of course, it may go to a scholarly level. They may discuss it and change it. I don't know if this answers your...
Thank you. Any other sisters, brothers? Sheikh, I'm talking about generally within the Muslim society, not outside the Muslim. So we are expected to start believing or accepting Allah from the age of 15 or 9. Now, is that time period sufficient for us to be able to have acquired enough knowledge to accept it? And then sometimes, because in the modern circumstances, it may take longer time sometimes, or shorter time. So what is the time period?
I mean, people may become mature in this sense at different ages. I mean, some people may become mature at 30. In this respect, you know, some people may become mature very early. the only thing is that we know that no matter what education we have received in terms of religious education, there's a certain age that we want to know ourselves. We want to decide for ourselves. And that is the crucial time for every person. It may come at different ages. That's a crucial time. That is when people decide really they want to believe or not to believe. And I know, for example, some children, for some while, they stop praying, okay, and they keep it away. They keep it hidden from their parents. But after a while, they come to a different conclusion, and then they start praying and the qada of all those prayers. You know, every child has a different situation, different decision-making process. If it was not because of that, we could not be held responsible. I mean, we could just say we were indoctrinated by our parents. But Allah says this is not the case. Even in terms of mushrikun, in Surah Araf, when it talks about وَإِذْ أَخَذَ اللَّهُ مِنْ بَنِي آدَمَ مِنْ ظُهُورِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّتَهُمْ وَأَشْهَدَهُمْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ أَلَسْتُ بِرَبِّكُمْ. Everyone in his fitra knows this knowledge. So if it was not for that, Allah could not have held people responsible on the Day of Judgment. They could have said that we are just product of our parents, product of our society. But it doesn't work that way.
Then why is this difference between male and female? 15 for the male, and 9, I mean, generally 9 for the girls. Then should it not be open?
It's a disgrace for men, isn't it? They become mature later, at older age than females. No, it's true. I mean, when this age 9 is set, it means that they become mature earlier than male. Boys are usually very playful at this age until they become 15, 16. But girls are more serious in matters of life, and they become mature sooner.
But then this is, okay, they may become mature, but this is a question of accepting, okay, there may be a girl who may become mature, but then she may not have had enough faith to accept Islam yet.
About that, as I said, I mean, this
Yeah.
differs. I mean, we say 15 and 9,
Yeah.
but that maturity of becoming aware
Yeah.
of faith may come sooner or later, may come earlier or
Yeah.
later, both for males and females, you know. But certainly, until that maturity comes, people are not responsible for what they do.
So it means that, for example, a girl who accepted at the age of 20, so the past years that she hasn't done anything,
You know,
there is no
when,
qaza.
when
There is no
law
qaza, is it?
comes,
Yeah.
jaza is something different, okay? But law cannot be just vague.
Okay, fine.
Law says girls at 9, boys at 15, okay? It's a law. They have to follow, they have to comply, but that doesn't mean that they have become mature, all right? That doesn't mean that Allah would hold them responsible until they become. But when it comes to law should be very clear, isn't it?
Yeah, law is clear, but the law is laid down according to the Sharia. So now, if a girl start accepting at the age of 20, and the law says from 9, so all those 11 years she has missed. Does she has to do qada for that or what?
According to law, yes. But according to judgment of Allah, we don't know. He will judge
sure.
it.
Okay, sure. Any others? Yeah. Pass the mic to Manzoor, yeah?
Alaikum assalam.
Assalamu alaikum. You know the answer you gave to this question of Nizar, and in the end you explained that if there is an issue which is raised from the grassroots, then it goes on to the scholarly level, and then they make a decision or they decide, and then the aqaid or the understanding can change. Now, in the matters of taqlid, it is usually said that you follow for the ahkam, you can follow a mujtahid, or you can follow the taqlid. But in the matters of iman, you make your own decisions. How can we explain this change in the aqaid,
You know,
the way you
taqlid
explained it?
Taqlid is a technical thing. Taqlid is not something that the grassroots should decide about it. It's lawmaking, it's what is the law in Sharia. But in terms of Aqidah, yes, sometimes we may have in our system of Aqidah certain views which are counterintuitive. And when it goes to the grassroots, they ask questions about it. They start to ask questions. Then there are different sort of conflicts would rise because of that. I mean, if we see how different trends of tashayyu were formed in the beginning, it was just like this. I mean, people could not accept certain things or came with different ideas, different opinions. Then there were discussions. So we have a set of tenets which is laid down. And when we believe in it, we say this is our aqidah. It's not the matter of following or taqleed. We accept it usually. Or we may not be aware of it at all. As grassroots, we may not be aware of it at all. But sometimes when we become aware of it and when we question it, and this question becomes widespread, then it goes up to the scholarly, I don't say scholars because the scholars have no authority here. It goes up to a scholarly discussion. And in scholarly discussion, then they sort of decide, for example, yes, this is wrong, this is right. Again, it's a matter of acceptance, not a matter of taqleed that people have to follow.
Thank you. Any other sisters? Last one from brother, sisters. No, thanks, Sheikh Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad Salwa. We continue next Sunday, inshallah.